I hate the term make or break, but to be quite honest, this is a make or break year for Gicarri Harris.
You are Locked On Boilermakers, your daily podcast on the Purdue Boilermakers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Locked On Boilermakers here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network where it's your team every day. As always, I'm your host. I am Nick Arvin. I'm talking Boilermakers every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the only daily Purdue show out there, and we have a fun episode headed your way today because we're breaking down Gicarri Harris. Why this year, why 2026 is so crucial for young Gicarri Harris. It's going to be a good one because then we're going to get into the guys that it's going to be a crucial jump year. I'm sure Gicarri Harris will be in that, but guys that have to take a jump this year to not just find success long-term at Purdue, but for Purdue to find success within 2026. We'll finish off today's episode with some training camp news, some fall camp news from Barry Odom, some injury news, unfortunately, and how that will affect the tight end room. So it's going to be a great episode today, and I want to get right into things talking about Gicarri Harris, because since I've covered the Purdue Boilermakers, since I've been talking Boilermakers here with you guys every day on Locked On Boilermakers, certainly during basketball season, Gicarri Harris has been a pretty big point of discussion. And what is Gicarri Harris going to do? What is his role going to be? I think back to last year when we started, it was my first year doing Locked On Boilermakers for Purdue basketball. And as the season gets started out, we're having conversations about what is this starting lineup going to look like? Who is going to be the one that steps up, or who is going to be that dark horse guy that really surprises some people? And my answer to that question before that exhibition against Kentucky was Gicarri Harris, because he was having a great year. He was having a great summer, looked like that guy that was ready to take that jump into that final year of the last era of Purdue basketball. I thought there was a chance maybe Gicarri Harris even starts because I really like the fit alongside Fletcher Loyer with having that size. But we saw, much like freshman year, CJ Cox was the better fit for this team. He was the better fit to be the starter for the Purdue Boilermakers basketball team. And although Gicarri Harris had a great exhibition, had a great summer, as the regular season started up, things started to slow down for Gicarri Harris. The shots didn't start to go in. It seemed like his confidence was going away, and he got put on the bench, where last year Gicarri Harris averaged right around 4.6 points per game, 1.6 rebound on 16 minutes played last year. So not great numbers by any stretch of the imagination, not for a sophomore who you thought could potentially be that starter the last 2 years, quite frankly, to be averaging under 5 points a game. Those are numbers that you would like to see get up, which comes to the theme of today's episode, which is that 2026-27 it's a make or break year. It is a must jump. It is a whatever you want to use to describe that this is a year Gicarri Harris has to take that jump, take that junior leap. This is the year. This is the year for Gicarri Harris. We've seen, as I mentioned, times where he would go into the summer, but in the regular season, he just slows down. That can't happen this year for Gicarri Harris. That can't happen for Purdue. And the big reason is because I expect Gicarri Harris to play a bigger role on this team than he has his entire collegiate career. Obviously, that sounds pretty elementary. That sounds pretty obvious because Fletcher Loyer, Braden Smith, Trey Coffin ran a large amount of Purdue's production. 4 starters last year are no longer in the starting lineup, creating opportunities for 4 guys to take those roles. But then you see what happens in Canada, how competitive that was at the wing. Obviously, there is no chance, and I'm going to say this, there is no chance CJ Cox is out of the starting lineup. No chance at all. We've seen it 3 times now. This will be the 3rd time where people have been calling for Gicarri Harris to start over CJ Cox. It's not happening. So then you have Antione West, who in game number 1 put up 20 points. You have Gicarri Harris, who in game number 1 put up 20 points. At what point was just a couple of weeks ago before the Canada trip what seemed to be pretty much a lock from my perspective for Gicarri Harris to be that starter it now feels like we're going back to freshman year Gicarri Harris with that great elite shot creator, and Antione West can just find a bucket. You don't know how, you don't know where, but Antione West can find a bucket. And then on the defensive side of the ball, he's doing great things as well, which is creating the conversation of, is it Antione West? Is it Gicarri Harris? Which one of these guys is going to be the starter going into next year? I think if it's not Gicarri Harris, it's a waste. And I think we're getting to the point right now where if Gicarri Harris is not the starter for this basketball team in 2026, we're at a point where Gicarri Harris's tenure at Purdue, or his stint, 3-year stint at Purdue, has been quite underwhelming, and I feel like deemed by a lot of people to potentially be a failure. That's why, one more time, I go to tell you, this is a make or break year for Gicarri Harris. Gicarri has to perform this summer. Gicarri has to perform during the exhibitions, and more than anything in the world, because we've seen it twice now, Gicarri Harris has to perform to start the regular season. This is a make or break year for Gicarri Harris. I thought he could have potentially been a guy that transferred out after last season. I saw Gicarri Harris and Daniel Jacobsen as really the two guys that be on the lookout to maybe transfer and find a bigger role elsewhere. Gicarri Harris elected to stay at Purdue. Do you think Gicarri Harris is staying for a bench spot? I don't think so. I think Gicarri Harris is staying because he truly believes in his heart of hearts that he's capable of getting that starting spot this year. And yes, Matt Painter says it's earned, not given. That is the fact. That is the truth of the matter. So for Gicarri, you're not being given anything. You got to earn this. You got to bust your butt. You got to beat out the young, hungry, up-and-coming, scrappy guy in Antione West to say, in my junior year, I, Gicarri Harris, am the guy that deserves to start at this position. Is he capable of doing that? We haven't seen it yet. But I think that he is. I think this is going to be a year where Gicarri Harris is hungrier than he ever has been. We saw it in Canada. Yes, that's Canada. Yes, it's against teams that, quite frankly, aren't any good, worse than any competition Purdue will face in the regular season this year. But still, we saw it. I saw a Gicarri Harris that was hungry. I saw a Gicarri Harris that was confident. I saw a Gicarri Harris that was able to get to his spots at a pretty high level, and quite frankly, on the defensive side of the ball, did some things that I've been talking about. I think that's who Gicarri Harris is. We saw it against Miami. We saw it in the round of 32. We saw when CJ Cox goes down. We saw when Cox hyperextends his knee. Who is the one to step up? It's Gicarri Harris. And he played good defense. He did enough for Purdue to get out of the round of 32 with a win when his teammate goes down. Does that mean he deserves a starting spot in 2026? Absolutely not. But I'm going here and I'm telling you, and this is the reason for this episode, is to say this is a make or break year for Gicarri Harris. And what I saw in Canada makes me believe that in his heart of hearts, he believes just as I do, 2026 is a make or break year for Gicarri Harris. Will he perform in the regular season? That's the big question. That is the biggest question of all. That is what will decide Gicarri Harris's fate at Purdue, quite frankly, because this will likely be, if Gicarri Harris can't get that starting spot, if he can't perform the way that you at least need him to perform. You don't need him to put up double figures, but you need him to put up 7 or 8 points a game and play solid defense. If he can't do that for you, this might be Gicarri Harris's last year in West Lafayette. This is not a regular season like last year. I don't think this will be a regular season where we see the same starting lineup day in, day out, no matter what happens. If guys are underperforming, if guys are overperforming, I could see Matt Painter switch it up because you have those young guys. You want to establish something within these younger folks. I think for Gicarri Harris, this is a year where you need to grind every day because you got a hungry dog behind your back. You got Antione West climbing up, trying to take what's yours, and that's potentially that starting spot. 2026, make or break year for Gicarri Harris. If he can't take that leap, there will be conversations about his future. That's just what the reality of the situation is. So I am of the belief that he will take that leap. I'm hoping he's going to take that leap, but of course, we probably won't know that until the regular season starts. And with that, there are some other players on Purdue's roster that need to take a leap, quite frankly, or for Purdue, or that I just think will take a leap. No matter what the case is, there are some crucial jumps headed your way in 2026. We're discussing those coming up here next on Locked On Boilermakers. Since 1986, the game has been creating classic college hats that fans are proud to wear. Whether you're an alumnus, current student, season ticket holder, or simply someone who never misses a game, a great college hat is more than just apparel. It's a way to represent your school wherever you go. And this year, the game is celebrating its 40th anniversary by giving fans a chance to save on some of the most iconic college hats. If you've been thinking about replacing an old favorite or adding a new one to your collection, now is the perfect time. And if you've been watching the show for quite a while, you know the white game hat that I have, my white Purdue hat I have from the game. It's always in my rotation, wear it all the time. And with the hundreds of officially licensed college hats to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit for your game day and every day. Don't miss the chance to celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off your entire order. Visit thegamecaps.com and use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's thegamecaps.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off, but don't wait. This anniversary offer won't last forever. I would say there's quite a few players on Purdue's roster in 2026 that you could put into that classification of guys that are going to need to take a jump into 2026. First, before this second segment, Nick, coming up, I know the first segment may have been a little bit laggy. My internet went down. I had to film on my iPhone hotspot, so we are back. We should be a little bit smoother now. If you're still here, thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry about that first segment, but I wanted to get through the Gicarri Harris talk, and I want to continue the Gicarri Harris talk into this second segment, because when you talk about crucial jumps, I still don't believe there's anyone on this roster that needs to take that jump more than Gicarri Harris. For all the reasons I mentioned in the first segment, whether you were able to hear it with that lag or not, Gicarri Harris is a guy that has to earn that starting spot in 2026. Antione West is going to be climbing to try to take that spot from Gicarri Harris, to try to get into that starting lineup in his redshirt freshman year. However, for Gicarri Harris, this is your year to have that veteran experience. This is your year to fit in to Matt Painter's roster and say, I'm the veteran. I have the experience. I know how this thing goes. I know how the system plays out. I know what to do in the system. I have the experience on you, young Mr. West, even though you are a brilliant playmaker, brilliant shot creator. It's my role to earn. I think that's a huge jump this year for Gicarri Harris, is just securing more playing time, securing that starting role, but not just securing the starting role. You have to run with it. If you're Gicarri Harris this year, the confidence is something that we've seen at times from Gicarri Harris has been there and then hasn't been there. I want to see that confidence stay up all year long in 2026 for Gicarri Harris. I want to see him attack those passing lanes. I want to see him driving inside, attacking the basket. If he can do those two things, I think Gicarri Harris is going to have, honestly, a breakout year of sorts. I've been pretty positive that I think he's going to have a better year, but it's all on Gicarri Harris, and that's just the reality of the situation. The year will be decided by what Gicarri Harris ends up doing. The second player I've got, which I think could be due for maybe a jump, but the jump is definitely crucial for him, is Omer Mayer. And Omer is in a similar situation to Gicarri Harris, not necessarily because it's been 2 years. Omer Mayer starts last year at Purdue because the expectations were so high. It felt like Omer Mayer last year maybe underachieved a little bit. And things weren't all bad last year for Omer Mayer. Last year, averaging 5.5 points per game, which is solid. You'll take that from a freshman, especially when Braden Smith is the point guard in front of you. But there were times where it felt like the game sped up Omer a little bit. And then even in Canada, it looks like he's just a little bit slow, sometimes indecisive about what shots he needs to take, and that leads to turnovers, bad shot attempts. There's just certain things you see with Omer Mayer where he isn't as perfect as you want him to be. And yes, he's young, but we've seen in the U19 FIBA World Cup, for example, goes for 30 points. That's the Omer Mayer we want to see at Purdue. We want to see him confident with the ball in his hand, just take control of the game. And he hasn't quite been the player to do that yet. And it's a similar situation to Gicarri Harris, not just because of those expectations, but also because of the situation those two guys find themselves in heading into 2026, where now Luke Ertl is the guy. He is the other young guy that's scratching and clawing, trying to earn that spot, trying to earn that starting spot in his freshman year. Can he do it? I think Luke Ertl, as of right now, looks like the better player. Now, that doesn't mean Matt Painter is going to trust a freshman over a guy in Omer Mayer, who he's definitely spoken positive about. But I think I can speak for me. I think I can speak for a good portion of the fan base when I say in Canada, who looked like the better player? If you say Omer Mayer over Luke Ertl, you're not being truthful. Luke Ertl looked like the better player. He did better things on the floor in those exhibition games. 4 exhibition games, I thought he looked better in at least 3 of them in that international tour. So Luke Ertl pushes Omer Mayer into a interesting situation, especially with Kevin Savage coming up in 2027. No doubt in my mind, this is a huge, crucial year that Omer Mayer has to take a jump. Sticking with the theme of guys that were on the bench last year, Daniel Jacobsen is another one, and maybe even more crucial for the team as a whole than any of the other 2 guys, because Omer Mayer, Gicarri Harris, big pieces of this team, but they more need to take crucial jumps for their role for Purdue. Daniel Jacobsen needs to take a jump for Purdue as a whole, the outcome of Purdue basketball in 2026, because sticking with the theme of Omer Mayer and just not looking too good in Canada, I thought on the offensive side of the ball, Daniel Jacobsen looked pretty dang good in Canada. He opens up that first game with a lob, slams it down, but then you start to think, well, Daniel Jacobsen, he is 7'4", and he's playing up against guys that aren't even 7-footers, just not great talent. So on the offensive side of the ball, you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt. And I don't want to nitpick here, but then you look at the defensive side of the ball, and for all the things that Daniel Jacobsen did well, looked like he was playing pretty good offensively. Defensive side of the ball was not pretty for Daniel Jacobsen in Canada. And that's kind of been the theme. That was what the deal was last year towards the back stretch of the season, where you just couldn't keep Jacobsen on the floor against higher quality Big Ten centers, because, I mean, to be honest with you, he would let you down a little bit. You couldn't trust him to give you a good defensive performance because just didn't do it a whole lot down the stretch of the season last year. So for Daniel Jacobsen, we still have time. We still have a couple months until the regular season starts. It's going to be big for Jacobsen to just get solid, get in the weight room, get solid on the defensive side of the ball. That's absolutely key. That is first and foremost for Daniel Jacobsen. If he doesn't do that, Purdue is going to have problems. So Jacobsen has to take a jump, and it has to be on the defensive side of the ball, in my opinion. Moving on, and this is a player that wasn't on Purdue's roster last year, but, and I hate to say underperform, it's been a weird situation for Caden Pierce, where he was the Ivy League Player of the Year. I guess it would have been 3 years ago. So dang near a double-double, but then in 2024, 2025, 11.2 and 7.2. So just a little bit of a drop-off from that Ivy League Player of the Year season. He looked solid in Canada. I think there were things that were positives. I think on the defensive side of the ball, you're still concerned about, is he going to be good enough to pair up with Jacobsen on the defensive side of the ball? I don't know the answer to that question yet, but he can answer a lot of those. Yes, it's going to be his final year, so taking a jump isn't necessarily going to be as crucial to Purdue as a whole going into the future as a Gicarri Harris and Omer Mayer or Daniel Jacobsen. It's more so just going to be big for Purdue in 2026. But if Caden Pierce can take a jump in, he doesn't necessarily need to match the production, which he won't. He's not going to produce at the same level he did in his Ivy League Player of the year at Princeton, as opposed to what he would do at Purdue. But if he can find a range where he is between that last year at Princeton, right around 12 points, if he can be around 12 points and give some solid rebounding numbers, 12 and 7. I think that's huge for Caden Pierce within the starting lineup. I think that you have to be happy with that and consider that a jump big enough to give Purdue success in 2026. The last player I've got is Raleigh Burgess. I think that Raleigh Burgess is huge for this team in 26, especially when you talk about the front court. Caden Pierce, Daniel Jacobsen, some question marks are certainly there. How well can he be as that backup center? And honestly, it kind of looks like that is the role that Burgess has been set in, as being that backup center. I think that he could be solid, but this jump is going to say a lot for what the future of the center position looks like, because you got Sinan Juan, who's going to try to develop going forward. I see him more as that power forward type player. You've got Isaiah Hill, who is the highest rated recruit Matt Painter has ever brought in, could potentially be a one and done type guy. Daniel Jacobsen trying to develop. So Raleigh Burgess is in a situation right now where he's kind of in big man purgatory, where you just need to find a way to get your stock up going into next year, when this front court looks a lot better than what it does this year. So I think 26 will be a great opportunity for Raleigh Burgess to take that jump and to prove, hey, I'm a key piece of this team going forward. We'll see how it plays out. Of course, Raleigh Burgess coming off an injury that derailed his season last year. How does he come off of that? We will see in due time. But something else we will see in due time, and that is just a few weeks now, is Purdue football in regular season play. But some bad news at a training camp I'm telling you about coming up here next on Locked On Boilermakers. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. And best of all, you can make a free pick each day throughout the MLB season, because daily dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games. Whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league, every game has someone capable of going deep. And now you get the chance to make your prediction before the first pitch. Although my Cardinals are kind of falling out of contention right now, I know that Jordan Walker is still always a candidate to hit a home run, which is why I love using him for the Daily Dingers promotion. So are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. The Purdue Boilermakers have been pretty healthy on the football side of things heading in to fall camp, which started up fourth practice of fall camp was yesterday. So all things considered, that's a pretty good track record, only having, I believe, one injury reported within that time, which was a December procedure. And honestly, Barry Odom was pretty optimistic about that, about how things have progressed at Big Ten Media Days, how things are going heading into fall camp, the health of this team. But yesterday, a report comes out by my guy, Dustin Schutte of Purdue on SI, who we will have on the show tomorrow, that Barry Odom says, you know, we had two injuries in just the fourth practice that could potentially be, probably will be, season-ending injuries unless something changes or something crazy happens up into this point. I'm talking about Kylan Fox, the tight end that was brought in from UCF, and freshman defensive back Gridiron Daniels. Both of those guys suffering season-ending injuries. Very sad. That's tough, especially 4 days into fall camp. And it's going to bring up bigger questions. Gridiron Daniels, a freshman, so I don't necessarily know how much he would have played. I don't ever want to say someone getting hurt isn't a big loss, but I just don't know how much of a key piece he would have been within that secondary. Obviously, that sucks for Gridiron Daniels, but for Purdue and their secondary, I think that you do have other options, so that one doesn't necessarily sting as bad. However, it's Kylan Fox. Kylan Fox is really the injury that hurts you on the offensive side of the ball, because for those that don't know, Kylan Fox was a transfer tight end brought in over from UCF this offseason, and he was a player that was supposed to bring some stability at the tight end position. George Burren is projected to be that starter, was projected to be that starter even before the injury to Kylan Fox, but Barry Odom is very likely to use multiple tight ends this year, and with Kylan Fox, who is more of that blocking tight end, George Burren more of that receiving tight end, as the way way I see it, I think they would have complemented each other pretty well. So losing Kylan Fox is essentially losing a starter on the offensive side of the ball, just 4 practices into fall camp, which very unfortunate for this tight end group, very unfortunate for the offense, because I believe Ryan Brown could have definitely found some success with those tight ends. And that doesn't mean that George Byrne isn't going to be a guy that is involved or a guy that's going to have a good year. But much like Denylon Morissette at receiver, there are question marks about George Byrne. After playing the first 3 games and then being out the rest of the year, how well is he able to rebound from that? How well is he able to respond, come back in 2026 and have a good year? I think rightfully so. There are question marks about that. And that's the reason why you brought in Kylan Fox. So unfortunate, Kylan Fox likely not going to play this year for Purdue. I need to check on his eligibility status to see if he would have another year after this, but definitely not looking good for Kylan Fox's time in West Lafayette. An injury to a key player, a key piece that maybe Ryan Brown could have used. And so now you're looking at pass catchers, Denylon Morissette, George Byrne, both of those guys. There are some question marks coming off injuries. Xavier Townsend, Asai Wasim, BZ Owens, Jalen Hornsby. Those are your transfer wide receivers, and you're going to have question marks about how well do those guys translate over. Kylan Fox in the same boat, but right now I'm kind of sticking with my guns. If I have some questions, I don't know how good this receiving core is going to be, and losing Kylan Fox, although not the biggest threat as a pass catcher, is still going to hurt you, especially in the run game as a blocking tight end. So definitely an unfortunate report coming out of West Lafayette. Fortunate report coming out of Purdue fall camp that Kylan Fox will not be with Purdue the rest of the year. We'll see how things play out. We'll see how people progress. Is it Denylon Morissette? Is it George Byrne? Who is going to be Ryan Brown's number 1 pass catcher this year for Purdue? Well, we know it will not be Kylan Fox, unfortunately. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys for joining in for another episode of Locked On Boilermakers. I'm sorry again about the technical difficulties. My Wi-Fi went down in the first segment of the show, but we were back. We finished off strong, and we will be back here tomorrow with Dustin Schutte of Purdue on SI. That one is sure to be a good one. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, comment. All that really helps out a ton. If you're watching on Apple Podcasts or whatever your preferred listening platform is, make sure you leave a 5-star. Also helps me out more than you can know. But that's all I got for you guys today. So until tomorrow, as always, boiler up, hammer down.